we're at war with a very intrusive component of our federal government and some of the other institutions. And this is a Marxist takeover. And these people have not quit. It started with Barack Obama. They wanted Hillary Clinton desperately. Trump won. You know, they stole the election in 2020. Trump, thank God, survived an assassin's bullet to his head, and he's now the president, and he's doing some amazing things. But this nation, and I want everybody to understand that this is a Marxist revolution that is ongoing in our country and has been for a long time. I want this team to crush the deep state, just like we just crushed the Iranian nuclear program. But I want the setback to be forever. So we have got to come up with some ideas right now to massively shut down, agencies, organizations, maybe whole departments, get rid of a whole bunch of people. And we also have to, and I would be looking right at my attorney general and probably at the director of national intelligence and saying, you two work together. And I would direct both of those individuals to come to me with a plan, I'd give them maybe 72 hours. And I'd say, I want a plan for an investigation. And then I want to see some indictments. And I want to see some people brought in for questioning right now. This is good versus evil. And we better understand right now that if we don't take the evidence, if we don't take the information that we are getting, and the American people are standing there like me right now, we're standing or we're sitting and we're saying, please, Mr. President, take action. This is this declassified document about Russiagate, right? I mean, I've known this. Everybody knows this. But now there's stark evidence. There you go. There is stark evidence. Brennan, Comey, Clapper, right? And these three, stooges, these three hoodlums, these guys, the whole thing was made up. It was made up to help Hillary Clinton win. And in fact, part of that also says that actually Russia wanted Hillary Clinton to win. They actually favored her to win.
Part 3 of the investigation into how the CIA framed Trump just dropped, and it changes everything. This week, we learned how Obama's CIA told foreign spies to bump 26 Trump campaign associates who the CIA thought were, easy marks, framing them for collusion and then triggering the FBI investigation, the illegal wiretapping, and eventually the Mueller probe. We also learned there are classified documents that prove all of this, that Trump might have copies of. And it could be why Biden raided Mar-a-Lago. Now, today, Michael Schellenberger and Matt Taibbi dropped another bombshell. Russia didn't want Trump to win in 2016. Russia wanted Hillary, and the CIA knew it. Russia saw Hillary as manageable and predictable. They were comfortable with her and wanted her to be president. The Russians thought Trump was a wild card, didn't want to deal with that. There was never any evidence showing Putin supporting Trump. Obama's CIA director, John Brennan, knew this and manufactured the evidence. He manipulated other assessments, buried high-quality intelligence, and then manufactured a conclusion that 17 agencies agreed Russia interfered in the 2016 elections to help Trump. And then the press ran with it, and the country was brainwashed. Now, according to these new reports, these were similar tactics the CIA used with the WMDs. This has severely wounded our body politic, warped our minds, and wrecked our trust in national security institutions. We deserve the full accounting of this hoax immediately, every document involved. So the election has just happened. Hillary has lost. It was a surprise. They'd already kind of had this CIA, FBI deal working, and then they needed some major assessment that was authoritative. And you're saying Brennan at the CIA just started going like this and moving everything around to create this impression that they interfered on behalf of Trump?
Yeah, that's right. There's actually two separate intelligence scandals here for people to keep in mind. The first one happened earlier in 2016, where our sources, multiple sources, tell us that Brennan oversaw manipulation of our foreign allies to basically entrap Trump associates to create the pretext for the FBI investigation of Trump supposed alleged collusion with Russia, which we now know is debunked. The second thing is, almost a year later, Brennan orchestrates a phony intelligence assessment that comes to the opposite conclusion of what their own raw intelligence, their best intelligence was showing. These are two massive, massive intelligence scandals. What we're witnessing is the political corruption of both intelligence gathering and intelligence analysis by John Brennan. And these documents, we have been told by multiple people, still exist. They're at the CIA. They need to be released. They're probably part of this larger binder, which may have the other documents to support both the evidence of both of these scandals.
How do we hold Brennan accountable?
Congress has to take action. I mean, as I said, I now know for a fact that there are members of the House Intelligence Committee whose job it is, whose constitutional requirement it is to oversee the CIA, to demand that the CIA be a non-political institution. They need to hold them to account. There need to be hearings on this. They need to get to the bottom of that. We need that 50-page report and the binder and the rest of the documents.
Well, I agree. I'm not relying on Congress to do much of anything these days.
So that document's out. There's another document that didn't get a lot of reporting, and that's the document by Senator Grassley. I think he released a couple of weeks ago about foreign interference in our elections, particularly precisely China, but China, Venezuela, Cuba, Russia, Iran, where the U.S. intelligence community was aware of all this during the 2020 election. So we've known that. So how much more do we know that the U.S. intelligence community is hiding from the American people? But this particular document that you're rifling through right there, Alex, is such a staggering display of criminal behavior by the most senior officials in the U.S. government under Barack Obama. Okay, and we now know, because during my case we brought it out. You know, before my case was dismissed, we fought tooth and nail. Yeah, these are acts of treason, exactly. So the 5th, and I'll go back this, the 5th of January of 2017 was a very famous meeting, which we now know we have all the evidence of, with there's probably some redacted items that are still remaining, but we have enough evidence of the 5th of January 2017 meeting in the Oval Office run by Barack Obama and his soldiers, right? Those three, Comey, Clapper, and Brennan were three among a couple others, Yates and Susan Rice were two others. And that's the meeting that they conspired to basically undermine a duly elected president of the United States. And the person that they talked about getting rid of first was yours truly. That was the 5th of January, 2017. The 6th of January, that particular report was presented, what that report is talking about. That report was presented to Donald J. Trump and his incoming national security team the very next day up at Trump Tower, 6 January 2017. So here they are in the Oval Office on the 5th of January, and they are conspiring to basically undermine and overthrow the presidency of the United States of America. And then the 6th of January was the day that they then met to lie to the incoming administration, particularly to President Trump, about a whole series of things.
You said Brennan, Clapper, and Comey are the kingpins. You get them, the whole thing falls, and now it's in the report.
Yeah, and exactly. And you know, and like I said, you go pick up Jim Clapper. So Kash Patel, go pick up Jim Clapper, take him on a long ride to wherever he's going to be questioned. And I guarantee during that ride, he will spill his guts, because Jim Clapper does not want to go to jail. He's an older gentleman. You know, he's like probably 80, 81 years old. He doesn't want to go to jail for the rest of his life. And the other thing is Brennan, Comey, and Clapper, those three amigos, they're soldiers, okay? They're soldiers in this takeover of America. The kingpins here are people like Barack Obama and others who are part of this globalist component, and they're internal to this country. There are some of the large CEOs, if you will, and certainly the overseas component of the globalist cabal led by people the likes of like Soros, as an example. So these three, though, were soldiers, and they were executing what they were told to execute, which is basically to undermine. Once Trump won in 2016, we are not going to let this guy, have a day to breathe. Undermine him, get rid of him. And they wanted him out before the election. They wanted him out once he won. They wanted him out immediately, with the likes of Rosenstein, who was the acting attorney general at the time, trying to run the 25th Amendment on Trump. I mean, so many things that we have got to go back and look at.
And General, just to
because of
briefly
what we
interrupt,
now
because you're
know.
so on target here, for people that don't know about Grassley's report and all the documents he got from whistleblowers and others, it's exactly what you and I said 4.5 years ago at the time, what came out, the Chinese whistleblowers, the ballots flown in on private planes, in the key battleground stealing it, the Chinese nationals driving the cars in at 2 a.m. in Michigan and other Pennsylvania, and the postal drivers finding it, reporting it, FBI threatening them. This was Venezuela, China, working with the CIA, working with their own operatives to literally steal the election. And then when the FBI mid-level found it and reported it, it then being shut down. This is total proof of high treason with the Democratic Party, with their own operatives in the intelligence agencies and DOJ, working to steal the election using the power and force of our main adversary, the Communist Chinese. I mean, look. We know the penalty for this is open and shut, and they need to get fair trials, and then they need to be hung in public.
Yeah. So this is very, very serious time for America. But we are at war. We are in a wartime situation right here at home. And, you know, you can go back to one of our founders, John Jay, in Federalist Paper 2 and 3. He addressed the greatest threat to America, and I'll paraphrase, the greatest threat to America won't be from a foreign adversary. It'll be from subversion inside of our own country. And that's where we are today, almost 250 years later, right? 249 years later. We have subversion from the highest elements of our United States intelligence and security apparatuses, right? The leaders of those organizations were subverting, and they were doing it on behalf of a president of the United States. And that is name is Barack Obama.